Okay, we start our session with recitation of Umul Kitab Al-Fatihah. So today is session number 3. So let me pin. Let me make small first. Let me pin myself. How to pin? And then make this, and then we put here. Okay, currently the leaderboard for our chess league is like this. Safiddin still leading with undefeated 9.5 mark point, and then the rest place we have another like today will be halfway of the league, and yeah, try to do your best in the second league. So today we will talk about opening, but before that let's revise a little bit about the database. Okay, let me close it down. Okay, in the previous session I talked about database and so on, about Chessbase and so on, but where can you get this Chessbase and so on? So you can get it from the Chessbase. If you go check the Chessbase, here you can have this. Chessbase is basically one of the news, anything related about chess news, the most important chess news in the world, you can read in this Chessbase lah. So just to show you in the shop here, the database is under the database program. The Chessbase all thing is database program. The database is normally when you try to buy any database, is expensive. It's really expensive lah, because it's data. So for example here, the one that I about the Chessbase. So this is Chessbase, the program itself. Okay, Chessbase, the program itself. So you see the program only is about almost 120 euro, meaning that you time 5, you get like 500 plus, like that, 500 plus ringgit. So that is the program. But as I said, if you have a program only, then it's no use actually, because a program is just a program. You need a data. Normally the data is more expensive than the program. Okay, because the data, you need to understand, previously people key in the data one by one. Okay, nowadays when you see in the, for example, nowadays if you go to any chess tournament, tournament DGT, okay, so for example nowadays they have this DGT board. Okay, when you play in the on the board tournament, on the like top tournament, you will play on this board where whatever you move on the board will be captured by the computer. So nowadays it's easy lah. So there are no need to a person to key in one by one. But previously, yes, people need to key in one by one, taking your score sheet, and then somebody whatever, they will key in into the database one by one and so on. That's why the price for the data, any data in the world, regardless chess or non-chess, is always expensive. So for example, this is the program only. So the what we call the data itself, they call it mega or big. So you see the data itself almost twice the price of the program. So this around 200. So it's almost nearly 1,000 ringgit for this. And this mega, and then this big, it's the same thing, just this you have some annotation. Okay, now I talk about that. So that this is basically what it look like lah, the Chessbase. So this Chessbase and the data inside that. But of course it's quite pricey for some of you. So what you can do is that they have this like open source database also. You can go to SCID. If let's say you don't have this Chessbase and you also don't want to use the pirated version, the thing you can do is that you can go to here, you can click SCID chess. Okay, so this is basically the free software, the free program that allow you to store your games. You can play in Lichess. Yes, in Lichess, let's say here Lichess play. So here in Lichess, most of you know Lichess, and let's say I put name Ujai. Let's say Ujai. Let's say Ujai here. Of course, your data, your game is stored here. Okay, you can find your games here, all the games here. But this only the game that you play on Chess platform. What if later on when the pandemic is over, you play outside, or for that matter, for like this, like Masum, this time, you will play online, but maybe you will not play only chess. So you have your games and then you want to save it. You don't want to what we call to put on the score sheet and so on. So how you want to sort of like take that data and use and store it, save it for your reference later on, like previous Masum. Okay, like Mio, do you save your data somewhere? Your previous Masum, last year Masum.
Save data for my own good, untuk diri sendiri atau bagi orang?
Sendiri lah. Maksudnya do you still have the last year Masum 2021 what we call games?
No.
Okay, so that's the thing. If you don't save, it will sort of lost forever lah. For example, like this, at least for you, for example, for Masum, what we call pull data, Mio. Okay, so Mio, I still have your data for your this date. Okay, your all the Masum data, because after the Masum last year, I asked everybody to sort of give me your score sheet and so on. So I key in one by one. Sometimes not key in by one by one. You put in the lectures and then you give me the deal lah. So I just put in that thing. So at least I even have this selection. So let me go here. The selection, the Mio selection games during last year. So if you have this data, sort of like at the moment when you key in your data, it seems like it's significant. I mean that like just one games, but over time it will be bigger and bigger. For example, just to show you, for example, this is my okay. So if you look here, this all my games from 2002 when I play in the tournament. Whenever I play in the tournament, I only save the game that I play in tournament. Not online. I assume online chess is not really because if I play online, it's just like casual only. It's not really worth to me to put in my database in my game collection. But if I play Bliss, even though it's Bliss, but if it's not online, for example, I play with my friend and so on, I always keep here lah. So during the time when I play any games, I of course when you play Bliss with your friend, you don't record, but you try to remember what you play, and then after the game, and I just put key in, and at that moment it might seem insignificant, mean that you just play a game and then you just key in, it's just one game, but over time it will be a lot. It will be quite a lot lah. Over time it will be quite a lot. So that's the way. If you store your games somewhere, you can always revise again and again, because when you have all these things, you can select everything and then you can make a statistic lah, and then you can see how many you win, how many you draw, and then what the common end game that you will face, you always face, because this is your game. So that's one of the advantage of the saving your data. Okay, yes, you may say that I have no need to save the data and so on, but why not? I mean that you just play a game, you already spend some time play the game, so why not just take like maybe not less than like 5 minutes just to key in the data, and over time, without you knowing it, then you have like hundreds or thousands of data of your own games where you can make the analysis like what you did just now lah. I mean, you go to Chess and you analyze each data. Nowadays, when you play Chess like this, of course you analyze. You see, computer analysis available. Of course, Ujai If I open this, you analyze all this thing after you play, fine. But then that's only one game, so you don't see the pattern. Normally when you just analyze one game, you don't really see the pattern. But if you have like 5 or 10 games, 20 games, and then you analyze in bulk, you more or less get the idea that there are pattern, the typical mistake, typical problem that you play. Maybe you always have problem with the bishop, maybe you enter the endgame, you always have problem with this rook endgame. So that's more important information for you to improve. Then you do like this. This is okay, you can improve by looking at the computer analysis, but it's just only one games. You don't see that the overall pattern, the mistake that you do, and so on. So that's one thing about the having your games stored somewhere. Okay, you can store in what we call you can write on the book and so on, but it's too tedious lah. So it's better to use a program to do it automatically for you. Okay, so now let's say you don't have Chessbase, because as I said, Chessbase is expensive. So you can go to SCID Chess, you can go to this, and then you can download the thing, and I will show you a little bit about this, about the SCID Chess. Let me close this first. Let me close this. Close this. So SCID. So I already download that. So it's basically coming with these 3 things. Okay. So this just I want to tell you so that those of you who are planning to save their game somewhere and don't want to use any pirate, what we call pirate version of Chessbase or whatever, you just want to save and that's it. So you can just go to SCID. This is open source program. You can, when you download, you get this thing, and this is executable program, meaning that you go to bin, you have this SCID.exe, so you can just click it and that's it lah. So if I click this thing, you get something like this. Yeah, you get something like this. Okay, of course, if you look here, it's not as clean as Chessbase, but of course you cannot expect much because this is free program. It is open source program. For Chessbase, they have a company behind it. If you have people hired for making the what we call the interface clean and so on. But the idea is simple. For example, if you want to make a database, you just create here database. You just for example file, make a new database, and when you make a new database, for example, let's say you want to put my games, you just put my games and everything will be okay, my games. Okay, if you save, okay, if I make it small, this is the place that this is the place where you can execute the thing. So there are 3 things that is coming out. The my games. This is database that we are creating just now. Okay, so all your games will be put inside here lah. They have 3 file, whatever, so they come together and so on. So basically you can just put whatever you want lah. So you have this thing, let's say you play like last time that we learned this thing, and then we have this, let's say we do like this, and then we do like this, and then we do like this, and then we have win. So let's say you done putting your games, and then you can just save lah game, and then you go to save, you add into database. So you see here database my game. So you put your name, event, testing, and then maybe white, maybe Mio, black, maybe Nuril. Okay, and then maybe Nuril win, and then you save. So once you go that, and here is database. Here is database. You can click here, and then you see in your data, my game, you have what we call 1 games. Okay, 1 game there, and then if you click, you have this Mio versus Nuril. So over time, 1 games doesn't mean anything. I mean, you don't really see anything. But if you have a lot of game, then you what we call it become more and more lah. You can update your database. So at least you have somewhere to store your game. Okay, let's say you have lead chess. You play lead chess. Let me put lead chess. Let's say this. Khalid and Huzaifi. Let's say you want to store this game. You don't need to key in everything here manually, because you can just go down. Normally go down here, you go here. blah blah. Under computer analysis, move time, cross table, you have fan and PGN. Okay, you take the PGN. So this is what we call PGN. The one that you see here, this is PGN. Okay, PGN is a universal code, universal file format for storing chess games lah. For example, Chessbase can read that. Open source database can also read that. It's a universal lah. So you just can copy this thing. Either you can download raw, meaning you download everything. You can download annotated, whatever lah. So, or you can just simply click here and then Control C, copy the thing, and then you go back to your this thing, and then you basically you go to games and then export current game. Save. I think this thing export current game. No, save. Edit. I think edit. Paste clipboard text as PGN game. Previously, we already opened the lichess here. If you remember, if you open lichess, we already copy this thing. So, and then if you go to here to SCID, go here, paste clipboard text as PGN game. So when you click that, so it's already copy whatever you recently copy just now. And then after you do that, you just import, and then everything is in your ni lah, and then close. So now you have this Ujai and Khalid games here. So you already have here. So you with all the computer annotation there. So you can just easily refer later on lah. So, and then if you want to sort of like what we call to save into your games, for example my games here, you want to save, you just game and then save lah, add new games. So everything here is already what we call, is already put lah, the date and everything, because in PGN you already have all the date and so on, the name and so on. So you can save. And now under your database you have two now, you have Mio, you have Khalid. So that's how you can sort of like save your game from lichess to this open source database program. Okay, if you don't have a Chessbase. Okay, let's say you want to know now. Let's say you want to let's say you want to get a lot of games. For example, somewhere that is the database itself. If I show you, previously I show you that I have this what we call mega database, 8.7 million 8.7 million games. So this is expensive. I mean the data itself is expensive, because you need to remember this from 1400 until last week. I just updated yesterday. So from 1400 until 22 August 2021. So the total is around 8.7 million games. So this is a game that's played under the FIDE tournament, meaning that it's not just a casual game. It's not just like in the park games. It's a games that is played in the organized tournament by the FIDE. I mean established tournament lah. So of course this database you can purchase it or you can get it for free. The way you can get it for free is that you can just go to here. Let's say you want to see other people game, you just go here, you just click TWIC games. Okay, so basically TWIC archive. Okay, TWIC is what is TWIC? The week in chess. Okay, so basically if you click there, so you have this thing, the week in chess. So basically they are somebody who make it open source, meaning that they gather all the data in the tournament and then they put it into PGN or Chessbase format lah. So if you look here, you have all this thing. So you get this thing for meaning that TWIC the number 1399 date here, and then you have PGN and CBV. CBV is the Chessbase format. PGN is universal format, the one that you see like this lah. This is PGN lah, the one that I show here. This is PGN. Okay, so basically, if let's say you don't want to pay for database, you can go here and then you just copy this thing. You just click copy. You can download whatever download, and then I already get this thing. This thing. Let me put here. So this thing, you get this PGN file. If you look here. TWIC blah 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 PGN. So what you can do in order to extract the data, because this is PGN, if you open this, if you open, let's say open with notepad, you can see something like this. Okay, so this is PGN. Okay, you have all this thing, and this one game, and then this second game, this third game, this fourth game, with all the data you see here, event, this blah blah blah, and then whatever the player and so on, all the data. So you want to put into your database, what you can do is that you close and then you open your SCID here, and let's say you don't want to mess with your game, so you can create another new file, new database. So you create lah new database, for example database from TWIC. Okay, so you can save, and then now you have database from TWIC here. Okay, so in order to pull all the data just now, you can go to database and then you just import files, because now you everything in the files. So import file, and then you go to desktop just now. Desktop, you have this TWIC, the one that you just download from TWIC website, TWIC, and then you open, and then now you extract all the data. Okay, blah 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 blah. Close. So now, if you look here, this is my game, right? Now it's database. You see, they have 7,000 games. If you click here, so now all the game is automatically here. Okay, so if you want to see this game, what you call this thing, just click that, and then you get all the game lah. So you can just play like that. So this is how you can get data for free lah. But of course, free come with some price lah. You go to TWIC here, you need to do one by one lah. This from 23rd August until 30 August, you get this. So in 1 week, there are like 7,000 games. Just as you see here, there are 7,000 games played under the FIDE tournament lah. You see 7,000 games, the one that we just download. So here is always updated day by every week. They will update. Okay, they will update. So you can just do one by one. Okay. Previously, when I don't have what we call money to buy whatever, what I did is I manually one by one I click here, and so on. So yeah, so that's a lot. So this 1,000. So you guys, you know lah, you do one by one lah. If you want all this data, all the data. But the problem with TWIC is it just start in 1994. Okay, 1994. So you have the game from 1994 until last week. So you can have that for free, but you just need to do it one by one lah. If you see the database that I have from the Chessbase, itself is come from the old games also they have. So that's what you get lah with Chessbase. You have the old games and so on. So with this database also, database is just a program that can store your data, help you store your data. Imagine this is all your games, so it's easy for you to revise later on. You can also use this use engine to analyze. For example, here at the tool you have engine here. You can put engine also. So for engine, like I said previously, engine is something that people use to analyze their own game lah. So the free one, okay, because today I tell you for alternative lah today. Okay, so for example, if you want to free engine, the strong one is Stockfish now. Stockfish. So if you go Stockfish, you have something like this. You can go to open this thing, and then you can download Stockfish lah. So you can just download. You can use it in Linux, in Mac. If you use Mac, Apple, if not Windows, then you can always use this thing also. So you download Stockfish, and then I already download that. So after you download, you get this thing. After you download, you get something like this. And then if you open this Stockfish, you get something like this lah. It's just engine like this. Okay. So if you open this, nothing happened actually, because this just like executable file. So it's not like you need to have like interface for it to work. So because this kit, whatever this thing is already have interface, so this is what we call interface lah. You already have interface. You already have chessboard and so on. So this interface. So you can just pull the what we call the stockfish, the engine, you go analysis engine, you just copy lah, make a new, and then find where is the thing. So you just find, so I put in the desktop just now, desktop, and then you go to stockfish, and then you just click that, and then you pull that, and then this whatever you just click there, whatever name, maybe you can put stockfish 14, and then you okay. So once you got that, you okay lah, you okay, and then now you see this is the analysis lah. So like what you see in the chess also, they use stockfish, so you can got all this thing. Okay, again, all this basically you see is going down, is basically this time. For example, this 11 second, 15 second, 17 seconds, so it goes down lah. The latest one is the bottom one lah. Okay, and so you can just move here, and then you see the evolution change. So you know previously negative mean what? Negative mean the black is have some advantage and so on. So that's the database, the program for you for free if you want to use lah, if you want to store your games and then to analyze your game. So you can have a database, and inside the database you can have the engine, so one in one go. So that is the alternative for the commercial Chessbase lah, because last session I talk about Chessbase, and then you might ask where to get this Chessbase and so on, and then I show you that the Chessbase is, yeah, you can buy the Chessbase, but it's expensive lah, expensive and so on. So go to shop, and then it's under database lah. Among these product here, database is the most expensive. Okay, any database will be expensive. Okay, program is one thing, database is another thing, engine is another thing. So there are three things. If you want to really to study chess, the tool that you need is three things. Typically lah, database program, meaning that to store your game so that it's organized, everything is organized, or else you need to write on your book or whatever. So first is database program. Second is database itself, the data itself. Okay, so this is the most expensive normally, the data itself. Okay, you can put your own game manually. Okay, but if you want to gather the data from the outside, then you need to buy lah. And the third is what we call the program, the what we call the engine lah, the playing program, the engine. So all these things you have the free alternative apart from the Chessbase lah. For the database you have SCID, the one that I just show you. So this is the SCID. So this free alternatives, SCID. So this free alternative. So it got everything here lah. Everything that have in that Chessbase, you can get it here. But you just need to make use with this user interface lah. Maybe it's quite dull and so on. So you need to be adapt with this interface. That is the thing. And the second is data. The data, as I said to you, that you can get the data from this from the from this TWIC archive, the free data, but you need to do your work lah, find one by one lah. And the third, playing games, the engine, the free engine. Nowadays the free engine is this strong lah. So yeah, no need to buy whatever this other commercial engine, because even the free engine is the top engine. So I mean, better than just save your money than just use whatever available. So you have this all three alternative for commercial Chessbase. So that later on when I talk about Chessbase, because after this I will talk only Chessbase. When I talk about Chessbase, don't get what we call, don't say that, oh, this Chessbase I don't have it, because you always have this free alternative. Okay, free alternative. You can always have free alternative. Okay, so enough about that. So I just give you the alternative lah for this free, because I don't want later on you say that I talk about Chessbase, then I don't give you solution for free alternative apart from Chessbase. So I already show you what to do, what is PGN and so on. I show you how to copy and so on. So done with that. So that is basically about the database, because I want to complete that database part that I left last week. So now we come to the opening a little bit. Okay, so let me close. So this thing close. So the good thing about this is that whatever you store, before we go, whatever you store just now, the database, everything is inside this, inside the one, the SCID windows. So everything is inside this. So you have all this database from TWIC and so on. So let's say you want to backup your thing. So you just copy this, you put into your external hard drive or cloud, whatever. So you save lah. So that's the thing. So yeah, the size also not big. The size for this is only 42 megabytes. So it's okay. Okay. So done with that. Any question on this database? Because after this, I will go to opening.
No.
No, eh? Okay. So let's go to the opening. Let me close this. Close Mio. Close. Close this. Machine link. Okay. Okay. Let's go to the opening. Let me open the board. Let me open the board. Okay. Let me open the board. Okay. Okay. What is the goal of the opening? Normally, when you are black, traditionally people say that if you are black, the goal for the opening is to get the equality first, and then after that you find your chance. Okay, if you are black, traditionally people say get the equality first, equalize first, and then find the chance to win. Okay, you cannot just win straight away. So that's traditionally lah. But in modern day, they are like opening by black that straight away black try to be aggressive. For example, if let's say black want to play equal first and then try to find the chance later, normally they play like this, like normal lah, casual and so on. But in modern days, you have this Sicilian and so on. Black play dynamically, so this is what you call dynamic lah. It doesn't mirror what white did lah. So when you play dynamic chess like this, the what we call the chance for you to get aggressive in get go, even though you are black, you are the second move, you are not the first mover, still because you play like this, the position becomes sharp lah. The position is more sharper than if you play like this. E4, E5, if you play like this, like Safiddin play Petrov. So this is, people say this is quite dull, what we call dull opening, but it's very hard to break black defense lah if you black play Petrov. So this type of the what we call the opening that sort of like black try to equalize first, get the equality first, because white is the first first person who move first. So at least white have some slight advantage. Okay, in chess, white always get slight advantage in the opening because he is the one who move first. So that's why traditionally black always play their principle is that always equal first, get the equality first, and then fight later. But nowadays in the modern chess, you have this Sicilian. This Sicilian, if you go back to like 1900 or in the early chess time, you will never see this thing. When people see this Sicilian, people say that black don't know how to play. But nowadays, Sicilian is one of more common game lah. So nowadays you can play other thing lah. So that is the black goal. Black can play for equality and attack later, or black can just attack straight away, play aggressively. Both approach is valid. Both approach is valid. So white goal is basically they try, because okay, now that's black goal. So what about white goal? Because white is the first person to move, typically white try to sort of like what we call to maintain his or her slight advantage in the opening, okay, and try to accumulate this advantage over and over lah, and prevent black counterplay. But for me, black have, if you ask me, black have one certain advantage also. Black know what's black sort of like black know in advance what white play lah. Because for example here, if you are white, you don't know what black will play. But if you are black, you can sort of like know already white already play e4, then you can sort of like set up your opening in such a way that to your liking lah. For example, if let's say white is very what we call cautious player, meaning that is very safe player. So black, if you are black and you know that your opponent is quite safe player, you can try to sharpen the game by playing Sicilian and so on, provided that you know how to play lah. Okay, but if you know like white is very what we call very aggressive player, you as a black, you can try to divert the game into your territory. Let's say you are like, you like to play safe, so safe, or maybe you want to play solid, so you can try something like a Petrov or whatsoever like that. So even though white is aggressive player, if let's say you try to play Petrov, then no matter what, it's very hard for white to play aggressive, because the nature of the opening of the Petrov is like that. It's not aggressive, but it full of venom lah. It's not mean, when I say not aggressive doesn't mean it's not good. No, because they have solid games, they are aggressive game. All approach is valid lah. Okay. So that's the thing. So about the opening itself, there are some setup that regardless what black want to play, white can always use the same setup. For example, one of the setup is King Indian attack. For example, the King Indian attack is like this. So I just put insert null move lah. Insert null move. So insert null move. So this is the setup of King Indian attack. Okay. So insert null move, this thing, and then this thing. Okay. Basically, white can practically play this setup against virtually any black setup, regardless Sicilian or whatever. So this is one setup that white can use regardless of whatever black reply. There are very few very few opening setup that white can do like this. Okay, the King Indian attack. So the name for this is King Indian attack. King Indian attack. The name for this is King Indian attack. Okay, King Indian attack. Or I call it KIA lah. KIA. Okay, so this is the setup that white can use to virtually any black position. Okay, so that's one thing. And also another setup that white can play against almost anything that black can throw off is London setup, which is one of the famous setup in D4 opening lah. So the setup is like this. This internal move. So basically like this. Internal move. So this is London setup. London setup. This is London London setup. So if you play D4, typically you can play this setup against almost any what we call any black response lah. Okay, but you need to know lah what you do. Just these two setup is famous. This setup and this setup is famous for its universality. Okay, you can play this, especially this. This is King Indian attack setup, can be used in against virtually any black response. If you play D4, this is one of the setup that is the most universal lah. Most universal. I mean, you can play any setup against black lah. So that's the thing. But for black is depend on what white play lah. So you don't have like really a universal setup for black. If you play D4, if white play D4, one of the universal setup for black that can black can adopt is to play the triangle setup. So this triangle setup. So this one of the setup lah. One of the setup that you can play again D4 lah. Typically is not say that, I don't say that you can use this to virtually any D4 opening, but most of the time this is sort of like a safe setup it's solid, and also it's solid, and also you can survive the opening lah, if you use this. Okay, another setup for white, if white play e4, for black it's quite difficult lah, because e4 is more like a tactical nature, so there are no like universal setup that can so you need to know what you need to choose lah, what you want. If you want to play safe, you play this thing. If you want to play aggressive, you play this thing, and so on. Some setup people said there are some what you call the universal setup also against e4, which is this thing, and then this, and then this, and then this is perk. So this perk. So some people said that this also a universal setup for black to play against e4, meaning that whatever white play with the e4 opening, then black can always play like this. Some people said lah, but it's not really what you call, not really convincing, because yeah, being e4 is quite tactical, so you can just open the, so the what you call, the position can change very drastically. When I say universal setup, is the setup that will not be changed drastically for certain amount of time. For example, this setup, when white play this, white can be assured that this setup, this configuration stay for at least a period of time. Okay, same with this, same with this. So if white play this setup, white can ensure that this setup can be there, the position stayed like this for at least quite number of time lah. So it's safe, the opening, you can say that the opening is safe lah. Similar with this thing lah, similar with this thing, the triangle setup. But when you play this, when you play, what is the thing? Okay, what is the thing? But when you play e4, this what is this? Okay, this setup is not so universal, because white can always exchange this bishop later on. I mean, it's not really universal lah, but it doesn't mean that you cannot play. In that you need to know more lah about this opening. Okay, when I say universal setup, meaning that you can play it without knowing too much theory. That's what I mean by universal setup. But if you play something like is very theoretical, like Sicilian and so on, like this Sicilian, you need to know what you play lah. You need to know the standard setup and so on, because a small mistake in this Sicilian can cost you a game. If you play this, normally small mistake you can still okay lah. So if you want to play aggressive opening, then you need to know what you play. You need to study the opening itself. Okay, study opening itself. Okay, so there are a lot of ways to open the game. Okay, so there are a lot of ways to open the game. So for white, you can open at least, not at least, I mean, if you are white, you can open 20 different ways lah, because this 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on lah. So you have this, because you have 8 pawns, so meaning that you have what, 8 times 2, you have 16 ways to open the game. And not to mention, not to forget this knight can go here, can go here, can go here, and also can go here, meaning that white can open like 20 different move order. A move can choose out of 20 move in the first move lah. And black also, because black also can, what we call, can reply 20 different ways lah. So 20 times 20 is 400. So for the first move alone, you already have 400 configuration, 400 possibilities to open the game. Okay, 400. But once you open the second move, so now when you open the, let's say you play this and then you play this, so this is the first move, right? So the second move now you need to consider this can move, this can move, this also can move. So the amount of number, the possibilities after the second move increase exponentially. Okay, people calculate that after the second, for the first move there are 400 possibilities. Second move, they have around like 70,000. So it's exponentially a lot. Distinct position for the second move. After the third move, then the number of possibilities of the position is near 10 million, 9 million, like that, 9 million position. So you can see chess is quite it's not exhaustive, it's exhaustive lah, meaning that's why it's very rare for you to play this. Even though you play chess a lot, it's almost very low probability that you will play the same game again, okay, because there are a lot of possibilities. Okay, so because there are a lot of possibilities, how do you know which opening is good and so on? So to do that, to know which opening is good and bad and so on, you need to know a little bit about some of the principle of the opening. So I just go quick because I know all of you know about this. All of you is Mustang, so I don't go in detail about each of it. So I just go very quick lah. So let me delete this all commentary. So there are a few principle of opening. First, you need to control the center. So this is control the center. So this center of the board, and this all of you know lah. So this the yellow one is extended center and so on. So you control the center because if you are in the center, if your piece in the center, you can move here and there. It's easy to go here and there. So it's like if for example, if you in the war, you put your army in the center position, so that if anything happen around the flank or on the side, then you can easily switch your thing here or there. So that's the reason why the center of the board is very important. So controlling the center can be done by putting the pawn there. So you can put the pawn there, so you occupy the center, or you can control from the afar. For example, you can go here, you can do like this. It's a no move. So even though there are nothing in the center now, but this bishop is basically ni lah, controlling the center. So if I have this, this pawn is occupying the center. This bishop is controlling the center. Both control and occupy did the same thing lah. You want to put your thing in the center. So that's one of the principle of the ni lah, control center. So that's okay. So that's the first principle, control center. The second principle is that you need to develop as soon as possible. I just go very quick lah. So you want to play and you want to develop as much as possible lah. As possible, you want to internal move, you want to develop as soon as possible. Mana nul ni? View note, report board, insert internal move. Because when you try to develop your piece, when I say develop mean, okay, let me put here. Okay, development mean moving piece, piece. Pound not counted. That's what I mean by development. You move out your piece, not the pound. If you move the pound, that's not considered as develop. Okay. Typically we don't consider as development lah. So when you move a piece, you develop your piece, then you become active and easy to attack and so on. So that is second principle of the opening. The fourth principle is make sure your king is safe. For example, you can the easiest way to make your king is safety is to to castle lah. To castle. So your king is behind the pawn cover. So the third principle of opening is king safety lah. King safety. Many of the problem, many disaster in the opening is causing because of the king still in the middle. When your king is in the middle and your opponent piece is active, then easily this king will be mated lah. And then the last principle of opening is space lah. Space. So for example, if you play in Sicily, the French defense, for example like this, you can see here, the white have more space because if you see this e5 pawn, they already inside, they pass this middle file lah, middle rank and middle of the board lah. So when black play like this, white play like this, so we can say that white gain space. So the fourth principle of the opening is try to gain space as much as possible lah. But there are some problem with gaining space. If let's say you try to open the game like this, right, open like this, yes, you have a space, but when you have more space, you also have more responsibility to defend that space. So black here, even though it's a lack of space, it can always play this breaking move here and there lah. So be careful also. If you have more space, also be careful, because prevent black from prevent your opponent from making any counter play and so on. Because space is one thing, but with space also come responsibility. It's easier for the defending side to break the space to sort of like provide the counter play. If let's say your space is not is just pound, you need to have like the piece also coming out and so on, not only pound lah. Okay, so that's space. Okay, so that is basically four principle of the opening: control the center, development, king safety, and space. That's four. It's enough lah. So that's just the basic. So that's why if you look any any major opening, it's always start with e4 and e5. Any major opening is always start with e4 and e5, because e4 and e5, they not only, for example, e4 not only it control the center, it also help the development of the piece. For example, this bishop can go out, this queen can go out. It also make the king one step closer to the castling, because when you play e4, you can open the you can make get this bishop out, and then after that you can get this knight out, and then you sort of like you can castling. So basically playing e4 in e4 somehow also help in this the third principle of opening lah, is somehow make this king near to safety lah. And lastly, space. For example, e4 is also claim space lah, and so on. So in chess, they have what we call ideal center. So this is what we call ideal center. So normally people say, if God playing chess, so he will play like this. Okay, because when you play like this, your piece is active and so on. You can play like this, and then you can play like this. You can cancel, and then you can do like this. You can do like this. You can casting. So you try. So this what we call the ideal center. And here you can see everything is active. So you want in the opening, you want to make everything like more or less, you try to go somehow like this. You want to control the center, and also you develop your piece and so on. Okay, once we know all this thing, all the principle, all the idea, then we might ask, what is the most common opening that people played? In order to do that, if let's say I have this database. Okay, I have this 8.7 million games. How do I know which opening is the most common? Okay, out of this 8.7 million games here, how do I know which one is most popular? Because remember, when something is popular, meaning that people have confidence with that opening. So by looking at the popular opening, at the same time, you will be assured that if you follow that opening, then you are safe, because many people play that. So people have confidence with that opening. So one way to do that is that to pull the data from all this game. One way to do that is just Control A, and then you go here and then go to statistic. But of course, if I will do that, it will take time lah, because this is like 8 million. So I don't want to do that. So you see, we have this circle of death there. So you that thing. So it will take time for this thing. I think it's not take a lot of time, but wait. Let me close that. So that's thing. So if you work with the big data, if you want to force something, for example, let's say you want to force the program to do statistics and so on, it will take some time. Okay, so let me close the program. So let me open back. So this, let me open Chessbase. So meaning that we don't do that lah. We don't do that. I've done that before. It takes around like 10 minutes to sort everything. So it will cost time. So I will not show you, but I will show you the result. I think I have the result somewhere. Wait, I think somewhere here I put. I think somewhere here. It's not here. This is not. I don't know where I put. Okay, so here. I think here. Just to give you some idea. This is 3,000. No. Okay. Yeah. So all these things. So this from 8.7 million things somehow like that. So when you pull all the data, get the statistic, you can see that white win most of the time lah, 39%, black is 32%, draw is basically the green one lah. So you can pull the data. If you have like database, you can pull all this thing lah. Let me show this thing. So this is not no. This length and game. Okay, so this when from that data, the 8 million data, when I try to make a statistic out of the game to see what the most common endgame occurred in the game is this: rook versus rook, and then bishop endgame, and so on. So when you have data, then you can do all these things lah. So that you can now focus what game, what endgame, what middle game, or what opening that commonly come out. So it will ease your study. So all these things. So let me close that thing. Okay, but that doesn't really teach you a lot there. So what I did is I create, basically, if you go to any board here in Chessbase, you have this thing. Let me make it standard view, standard view. In Chessbase, you have this thing. You have notation. Notation, basically, you open this thing. You have a thing coming out there, and then you have this opening book. If you open this thing, okay. So let's say this close book file. Typically, it's nothing there. Okay. You have nothing. Okay. Now let's say I want to see from this 8 million data, for example, 8 million data, what is the opening that is the most common in chess. So let me open it first. Okay, I have this 8 million data. I want to see which one, which opening that's come the most, most common lah, most common. So I need to make all this data, create this data to make as a opening tree. So you see here, I want to make the opening tree, creating the opening tree. So okay, let me show you first, because the 8 million is too big. Let me show how I did for your game lah. The reason why I explain this thing, even though it's not really opening, but to give you the basic idea about how all these things is done. For example, let's say I have your game. I have your game here. Let's say this Muslim League. I have all your game here. Currently, there are only 60 games. Okay, 60 game for the database is very small. So what I can do is that in order to sort of like make an opening tree out of this, to see which opening that is most common that you play during the league, is that I can just click, and then I just select everything, select all 60 games that you have played currently, and then I right click and I go, I think edit clip, clip or unclip, whatever lah. So I click the whatever. Okay, and then let's go to ni, and then I go to my database. Okay, so now so you have see here, you have clip database. Don't worry about this thing. I just want to show you what I want to do from your games, the 60 game from your league. So what I did now is that I create new database. Okay, so let's say league opening book. Masum 21 opening book. Meaning that from this I can know what is the most common opening that the player play during the league that you ni lah. So instead of database, I go to books lah, CTG, whatever other thing, no need to know. But you get this thing, something like this, like 3. Okay, so I just take whatever I just now the database from your game and I put here. So when I just this, I put it 30. So whatever, blah 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 blah, and then okay. And then if I click this, nothing happen. Okay, nothing because this is book, it's not a game. Here is for games only. So in order to understand what I've done just now, I click this, I get this thing. Let's say I go view standard layout. Okay, so now if I go to opening book, okay, so you see here Masum 21 opening book. This is all the thing that you play. So this is much more easier to understand than the what we call the graph that I show you previously, because now we can see n, meaning that numbers of games. So there are 60 games that played by all of you. 30 games start with E4, 20 games start with D4, and then 5 games start with NF3. I think this is Safiddin. 5 games start with E3. This is Khalid. Okay, so you can see when you play E4, then the percentage of white win is less than 50%. So this is percentage is basically from the white perspective lah. If 48 meaning that black is better lah, or not better meaning that the probability, the amount that black win if people play E4 is higher than white, because less than 80 lah, less than 50. If you see NF3, right, 90%, meaning that 90% of the time when white play NF3, he won lah, because this is Safiddin. That's why you got this 90%. The rest is yours lah. So basically from here you can see that from this league, okay, from all these 60 game, when you have a program, you can also do this in the open source program, the one that SCID that I showed just now. But you need to explore lah. But I just give you the idea, the tool first. Okay, from this 60 game, you can see that there are many people. Most of you are E4 player. That's what I can say lah. Statistically, I can say that among Mustang player, most of you are E4 player. But significant number also are D4 player. NF3 is Safiddin, E3 is what we call Khalid. So and then you can make, if you play E3, okay, new variation, the most common response for E4 when you play under this chess league is C5 or E5. Okay? C5 and E5. So that's how you use this what we call opening tree. So you have the tree, right, because you have tree, you have like branch. It's like the opening lah. When you play this branch, you get another branch and so on. So that's why we have opening tree. So that's how you create the opening tree and so on. So basically this is all the game that you play in this opening tree format. So it's easy to analyze lah, easy you to see what happening. But this database is only for your games. Okay, it's only for your game. It's only 60 games and it's only your games. But let's say now you want to know what happened in the world. I mean, what actually happening in the what we call, in general, what is the most famous what you call the opening for white, what is the most common response for black and so on. You need to use bigger data. So for that you can use the one that I show you, the big data, the what you call 8.7 million data. But as I showed you, it takes time to do that, to do even statistic, because to create the opening tree, the one that I just show you, it takes more time. But because it takes more time, I done it yesterday. So I already done it. So I think I already put in works, I think. Okay, so here, this. Okay, this is around 17 gigabyte, and it takes around 5 hours to create this. Just now, as you see just now, when I click this thing, Masum opening this one, it takes around, it takes just a second, right? 60 game, it's just a second. But this thing, where is the thing? This thing, the one that I create from the 8.7 million game database, it takes around 5 hours, 5 to 6 hours yesterday. I left it for ni lah, for I just sleep and then coming back, it's okay. But let me see here. So this is basically pulling all the statistics from all the games that is played. Ni lah. So let me go to view standard layout. Okay. So you can see here opening book. So you can see now you have like 8.7 whatever games. So this all the pool. So you can see internationally, most of the game is start with E4 and D4. D4. And the third popular game is NF3. And then fourth popular is C4. And all this E4 and then D4 and then NF3, all of this, they control the center. If you look this knight, even though it's not in the center, but it's control this center lah. It's control this center. Okay. So if you look, all this famous, the popular one is always control the center. And if you go to the bottom, you see here the bottom one and A3. You see there are very less people play that. Remember, this database is basically the database that pull all the game from the recognized tournament. I mean FIDE organized tournament. So you see all the games that starting with not controlling the center is not famous lah. Not people don't really play that. Okay, and even if you see the percentage here, the 44.1 is basically black is doing better than white lah. In most of the out of 135 games that in the database, black is doing better than white. So meaning that black have better chance lah than whites, and so on. And so on. So that's the thing. So if you play E5, if you go to any tournament, the most common response you will get is C5. Okay, the most common response that you will see is C5, followed by E5, and then followed by the French, followed by the Karokan. So this Karokan, followed by the Perk, followed by the Scandinavian. Okay, so that's how you can use the statistic to understand what happened. If you look here, you can see this just a data. You pull the data, but it's not like what we call, there are nothing useful from this. You can get the data, you can just get this percentage, the what we call the statistic and so on. But it doesn't mean that this D5 is bad, okay? Because this is just a data. You need something to evaluate. Previously, I show you this thing. Let me make it mine bigger. Previously, I show you this book, right? In the previous class, I show you this book. The MCO is not movement control order, but modern chess opening. So basically, in this book, what you can see in this book is this. It's something like this. Let me make it small. Something like this. Blah blah blah. Don't worry about all the detail here. But what I want to show you that. So this QurratuAin. QurratuAin is basically you play this. New version. You play this. So this is QurratuAin. So let me make close. Let me small. So that I can show you this thing in one day. Let me close this first. Okay. So this basically, whatever happened here is basically anti this lah. Bishop C5, and then they have C3, and then this NF6. Okay, just want to show you how to read the opening book and so on. I think that all of you know how to play opening, right? So for opening sake, I just give you the idea about the tools lah. So you have this NF6 and so on, this 4 NF6, okay? And how to read this is basically they are going down, okay? So now they are player play D3, so this is Guico Panasimo, D3, and then they have A6, and then they have A6 here, right? So and then you see A here, the number A here. So what does it mean? You go to A here, so it gives you some idea. The immediate blah 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 is premature and blah 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 blah. At the end of the day, let me can I do this thing? Let me just wait. There are too many this thing. Let me zoom insert. Okay. So let me do that because I want to write something. Control. Where is the thing? Okay. So let me make it smaller like that. Wait. Okay. Let me. Okay. So this thing. Okay. So you see this thing. So this position A6 here. Let me write Control 2. Okay. No. Let me Control 2. This thing A6 here. So it's basically this move lah. The one that I move A6. So they say that the immediate blah 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 is premature and so on. They give some idea about the opening itself. So meaning that you are not in the dark. You are not just playing according to what people say. They give some idea about why this and so on. And at the end of the day, they give this. They give this Ctrl Z. They give this thing. They give what we call the evolution. Plus minus. If you have plus at the top, so it said that white is have some advantage lah. So we want to see this thing actually, the what we call the evaluation, because the opening is just a move, but you want to know whether your move is good or bad. Good or bad, I mean equal or not and so on. So you can know is that if you play A6, they show you this thing. Somebody play this thing, and then somebody already analyzed that, and then they said that if you play A6, at the end of the day, blah blah blah. If you play D5, if you play D5 instead of A6, then if you play instead of D6, you play D5 instead of this, you play D5 like this. They say that it's premature and so on. So it gives you evaluation. So you want, when you study opening, you want to know this evaluation, whether it's good or bad, or is it okay for you to play this, is it not okay to not play this and so on. So that's what you want. So if you have this, so we done this thing. So if let's say you have all this thing, so this opening book from the what we call from this the database just now that we pull, all this thing is just statistic. It's just statistic. It doesn't really tell you much. It just say that okay, there are like 6,000 person play this, 6,000 person play 0-0, 6,000 person play A6, and then the most popular is D6. So it just tell you how popular and how many people play that, but it doesn't tell you is it better or not. Of course, you can see this also. You can see this 56.3%, meaning that the white doing better. But remember, this database, they are like 8 million games. So that from 8 million games, they are also beginner. Even though they pull from the FIDE organized tournament, you need to understand this tournament, the beginner can enter, the grandmaster can enter, the IM can enter. So even though it says that this 56.3%, meaning that white have better chance, it doesn't mean that if the black play D6, white can always win. No, it just say that the statistic out of all the game in this database only. So you need to have the evaluation, the plus minus and so on. In Chessbase, you have this live book. Okay, live book. So if you click here, you have this. Instead of giving only this thing, the games is also give the evaluation. This is what you want to learn. This you can use engine also, But remember, engine is good in tactical. You can open the engine. For example, you can open the engine at Kibitzer. So okay, blah 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 blah. Okay, you can see here in Stockfish. You can still see here. They are also have this evaluation, the equal time and so on. But remember, it takes time. It takes time. It takes time, and also it take your processing power, because remember here, this only it keep changing. You see, this is here, and then it change, and then it change again, and so on. It takes time. The stronger your computer, the powerful your computer, the faster it will evaluate. Because you see how they evaluate this thing. If you see here, that 24 over 34, meaning that you divide by 2 lah. You divide by 2 in 25, meaning that 13 move lah. 13 move. You divide by 2, because this in chess, in computer chess, just to tell you in just in general, in computer chess, this what we call one ply. This is second. This 2. This is 3. This is 4. Meaning that they don't say, as a human, we say that this is, let's say, this is number 2, right? This is number 2. But for the computer, each move is count as 1. For the human, each move, after the black complete the move, then it 1 move lah. But for the computer, each move is 1 lah. So this thing, you see depths here, meaning that 18 move each move lah. So 1, 4. So if you have 30, meaning that 15 move in human ni lah. So for example here, this is second move. This is third move for human. But for computer, this is the 6th move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5th move here. So whatever you see here, that whatever here, that depend on the how long the computer can see, how far the computer can see. So the farther the computer can see, the evaluation will change lah. So that's why sometimes you have the position. If you don't give enough time for the computer to analyze, then it will, what we call, it will, you make, for example, let's say you have this crazy position, whatever lah. I just put somewhere like this. I put like this, and then you do like this, and then I put 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 like this, and so on. And then I put like this, and then I put like this. I just move whatever. You see the evolution here change like this. Okay, plus minus, and then plus whatever. It keep changing. Who knows that if you left your computer maybe like another 2 minutes, the evolution change. Instead of this, you get like equal. Instead of like this, you get equal. So that's why when you analyze using engine, when you use Lichess, normally they do it in like 1 or 2 seconds only. Meaning that they just use minimal processing power. So maybe whatever evolution that given by the Lichess, the Stockfish in the Lichess, maybe not accurate enough. In order to get a good, accurate evaluation, you need to let the computer time. You need to give time to the computer. For example, let's say 5 minutes, 2 minutes. But of course, no one want to do that, right? That's why if you have good computer, supercomputer even, then whatever is done in like 5 minutes can be done in 1 second. So time is what we call, is the essence here. But normally when we try to analyze, we just do this, and then we just see for like few seconds, and then we go to the next position. So when you do that, you come to the risk that whatever you analyze, whatever evolution that's given by computer, maybe not wrong. Maybe if you let the computer think a little bit further, then instead of what we call the equal here, maybe you get plus minus. So the evolution change. So here, if you see here, remove it busy. The life book basically is what is life book? You need to connect with the. So the life book, the evolution here is done before. You see, it's done in 5 September. 5 September. Yeah. So it's done with other computer and so on. So you sort of can better rely that lah. So this is what you want to see lah. So if you play like this, if you want to understand the opening, okay, why this thing, okay, say that this opening, if you play this thing, the evolution is equal for both sides and so on. So that's about the life book and so on lah. Okay, okay, so now having know all this thing is important for you to improve later on further. Okay, to improve further, and also to know opening name. Each opening have their own name and so on. It's also important lah for your discussion later on. But opening, if you make mistake in the opening, if you make 1 or 2 mistake in the opening, normally is not really a problematic because you can always correct it. But it doesn't mean there are no disaster happen in the opening. For example, if you neglect the principle of the opening that we discussed before, the what we call the control the center, the what we call the development, king safety, and also the what we call one more thing, the space, then you might run up lose very early on. So for example, for that, let me give you some example. Let me import, no bot. Let me close this first. So there are a lot of things. So let me close this thing first. Let me this thing. No. This I close first this thing, and then I go here. Let me close this thing first. Let's go to database. Let's go to Masum. Let's go to coaching tree. Let me put here somewhere here because I want to show something how the opening disaster can happen. Okay, let me open this. Okay, let me open this. Okay, this I put somewhere here. So can you see here? So this is basically the game, your game, Safiddin versus QurratuAin. Okay, out of the games that I saw in your Lichess League, there are only very few of you that are lose because of opening. Most of you lose because of the middle game, tactic, or end game. So there are very few of you lost because of the opening. That's why in the opening session today, I just talk in general only lah. So let's see how Safiddin and Kur game. Okay. So this I want to show you what happened if you neglect the principle of opening. The 4 things that I tell you before, which is the space, if this control the center, the development, the king safety, and also the what we call the space. Let's see this game. How to do this thing. Okay, so you have this. Okay, Safiddin is white, so now you can see the what we call the name here. You can see the name. You can see the name here. So Safiddin is white, QurratuAin is black. So we see. Okay. So Safiddin played d4. D4. One of the advantage of d4 over e4. One of the advantage of e4 over d4 over e4 is that when you play e4, this pawn is not protected. So you occupy the center, but you need to protect this pawn. When you play d4, this pawn is not only occupied but also protected. Okay, so I think your black cannot really capture this thing just like that. So d4 somehow occupy and also the pawn is protected. So meaning that you it is what we call is it's like you put like a nail there in the middle of the board. Here you put the nail, but it's not firm enough. You need to sort of like to give a backup, the reinforcement to this nail. Okay, let's see this game. So nf3, nf6, and then d4, and then nf6. So even though this queen, the Kur play knight, although this knight control this square, and this knight control this square, seemingly that Kur done this what we call the control the center. But remember, knight, pawn can always chase the piece. Okay, so Safiddin play d5, and then knight a5. Okay, whenever knight goes to the rim, typically people say is quite dim lah. Knight at the rim is dim. Okay, because it's control less square. Because for example here it's control only 1, 2, 3, 4 square. Yeah, here lah. Here 3 square. Compare when you have here, you control like many more square lah. You control many more. You control like 8 square lah. If you in the middle in the board. So when you do like this, the problem with this is not only is control less square, but also typically when you are forced by the pawn, this knight is what you call is not have no way to go back. It's no way to go back here. And also if let's say the white open this thing, then the knight is sort of like trapped. So be careful about being trapped in the, if you have knight, make sure you in the middle lah. So so here the best way, even though psychologically is not, people don't want to do this, the best move is going back to what we call to b5, b8, because when you do like this, you can always reorganize it later on. For example, you can play like this and then you can play like this later on. It's much better. So the knight keep in the center. But if you go like this, if you go to side, then not only it cover less space, but also you have this knight have tendency to be trapped. Okay, and then Safiddin play this e3. Okay, the reason for this is because white wants to play nc3. Why Safiddin play this? It's because white want to play this thing. White want to play this and what is that? And this. Okay, so he want to put their knight behind the pawn. So that's the reason why Safiddin play this. And also this also what I said just before. The e4 pawn here is unprotected. So somehow you need to waste some time to do this lah. Although, okay, in this case, although what Safiddin play here is quite positional. You want to play slowly, positional. You want to play this and then you want to open this thing, open this thing and open this thing. So it's more like positional. But if you are a tactical person, you already can see that this knight is a problem. You can already see that this knight is a problem, and it's only have one place to left lah. So tactically, Safiddin already can win this by force by playing e4. Okay, by playing e4, then Safiddin already can win by force, because you can now the track is this lah to get the knight. Of course, this e pawn can be captured, but then by playing this, then you get knight. So 1 pawn for the knight, then you get ni lah, you get more advantage lah. Of course, maybe you might say that this is okay, I don't like to play this, and then black maybe play this thing, so that when you play this, when I take, then you can check, and maybe somehow quite ni lah, the condition is quite white still winning, but maybe white doesn't want to get into this complication, because white also need to be careful lah, because here how to protect this thing, how to protect the king. So you have two ways, because remember, if you play like this, then black have this thing. Okay, so be careful. Even though you get a piece, you already get a piece, but be careful that for example like this, you get a piece, you get so for example here, you get a piece, but now the black get the initiative. Black get sort of like what we call the first go, the initiative. I mean, dictate what can play lah. So here, be careful when you capture something in the opening. For example, you capture the knight. Of course, you already get a piece for a pawn. But remember, the black, by taking that again, maybe get some initiative. So you need to be careful, because this will allow this thing. And of course, still it's still draw. It's still not draw. I mean, it's still black can get what we call some here black sort of like what we call black get sort of like equal position here because of this initiative. So when you want to move a piece in the opening, you need to also think also which piece to move, because instead of it's much better to put and be much better to put this thing lah, because so that when you do like this thing, this square is protected by this knight. Okay, so there are no knight this, and then you win lah. So basically you get the piece for free lah, piece for pound, and you can go here and then castling and so on. So that's the thing lah. But of course, this allow when you play like this, when you take the knight, you allow the somehow, even though you get a knight for a pound, you already make black get some initiative, meaning that black got what we call some advantage in time, speed in time. So yeah, so that's one thing to be concerned about lah. If you take a free thing, be careful that not allow some counterplay. So that's why here if you take this, you get this, and then you black play this, it's much better to play this thing a3. Okay, because think about it, you might say, is why not taking this knight? It's free. Yes, it's free, but as you can see just now, the black get initiative, but the knight also here cannot go back. So it's not like the knight is going anyway. So much better you sort of like you just do this because you want to protect this from taking this lah later on. So just protect that thing, and then the knight still cannot go anyway. So this is much better way lah. And then maybe play like this, and then eat. So that's why you protect this thing. That's why you protect this pawn, because now this bishop cannot take this lah. Okay, so you take, and then let's say queen f6. You want to do that, and then you can do this, and then it's sort of like equal lah. Not equal, I mean that white is winning lah. Because now if black capture the queen, then the exchange of the queen, and then now without the queen, then the initiative normally become less and less lah, and then white can safely take this thing. Okay, so that's how you should play lah. So you play in the opening, even though you get a pawn, you somehow get a piece already. You need to consider also the counterplay by the opposite your opponent lah. Much better for you to play this, because the knight cannot go anywhere anyway. So rather than you take straight away. Okay, so that's the idea. So let's look what played in the game. So Safiddin played e3. It's quite a modest move. So the problem is modest because this block this bishop. Remember the development principle, but it's still okay. Basic, and then knight play basic, and now we can see that Safiddin cannot get this knight for free. White lose his chance to get knight for free. Not free lah, but at least you get the knight lah for pound. So that's one of the thing about the attack. If you miss the chance to attack, then the attack will evaporate. If you can attack, then you must attack. Okay, because if not, then the defense, your opponent can found the defense. Now, if you go like this, then the knight can go back lah, and then consolidate, and then this like not only now the knight can go here, but white already weakened his queen side like this, somehow strange lah here. But of course, it's not really bad here. But yeah. So here, black already can save his knight lah. Okay, now c5. So Safiddin play positionally. If you are d4 player, normally you know this way lah. Normally, if you are d4 player, normally you don't play like this, because you know this pawn. If you play like this pawn is quite people say useless lah. That's why d4 player, Safiddin is d4 player. Even though he opened with nf3, but he's still d4 player. Normally you play this thing in order to expand the queen side, because when you play d4, most of the time you want to castle king side, so it doesn't really matter you open or not. If you don't open this thing and you play knight first, then this pawn behind this is quite a time lah to ni. So so now Safiddin play c4 and then white play c5. Much more, if you have this now, you can see now the white pawn here control the center, not only control the center, occupy the center, but also gaining space. When you are facing the space gaining problem, it's better for you to break the space break that as soon as possible before it become problematic later on. So the better way to do this is you break the center straight away lah. You break the center so that to not allow white to become a master of the center lah. If not, you will become suffocated. Okay, because here of course white can pass and so on, but it's no use lah, because if white and pass, remember and pass, those who are new and pass, hope you know lah, and then this is equal lah. But of course white is not obligatory, not obliged to eat that, so it just develop. Okay, and then e6. Now the problem with this is that now the knight here already control this thing, control this square, and it can reinforce the pawn. If the d6 is played here now, then you cannot play this. Safiddin cannot play this. Either white need to capture, or it will break the center lah, break the center and so on, and then it's much easier for black to breathe, to bernafas lah. So that's why the move, even one move can make a difference. For example here, even though the recommended move is e6, but if black played a move later, for example, instead of play that straight away, she play c5 and then only d6, it allow white to control this first and allow this thing. And then now s6, Qurratu play s6. So this is as I mentioned in the first session, be very careful when you play s6 or a6. Normally a6 is okay lah, because be very careful if you play this tiny little move in the region where you plan to castle. Okay, this is problematic. The reason why Kur play this is because to prevent this. Okay, remember the first class, okay, the first intro class, we talked about this, right? Okay, why this thing is not really a problem yet. So don't just play this, just develop first, take priority. So now this allow white to continue with the space gaining ni lah, the best way. So now if this is problem, what is the best way to sort of like to prevent white from gaining space? The most common in this position is to play, the most common way, the most common method to prevent space gaining is to play this thing lah, to play this thing. Okay, it prevent this thing lah, it prevent this thing and so on, and also it's allow this move, have some move, and this, even though it's quite what we call cramp, but this is typical ways how you prevent white from gaining more space. Because remember, when white play this e4, this thing, white play this thing, the plan is that to move further lah, not only to protect this, but also the plan is also to move further. So the best way to prevent that is to play d6. But could play s6. One is a problem because it allow this weakness here, and then it's also allow Safiddin to push the pawn, and then now the knight goes down, goes back, and then now Safiddin play d6. Okay, so this is basically positional chess lah. You try to suffocate your opponent, what you call it, your opponent piece and so on, So you can see now it's very hard for this bishop to move and so on. Yeah, so this is it's pretty hard for the castling and so on whatsoever. So could play bishop b7, and then Safiddin continue with development, and now could make this blunder lah, f6. Always be careful when you want to move this f pawn, as I said again and again in first and second class. Always be careful about this f pawn, because most of the tactic for the level, your level happen because of this f pawn. Okay, so this is what we call the blunder, and you get this checkmate. Okay, so it's only 11 move only. So yeah, that's blunder. Be careful about this weak diagonal. This weak diagonal occur a lot of ni lah. Because for example, I want to talk about the weak diagonal. Okay, this weak diagonal, let me open this thing. Let me view it. Wait. Where is view standard layout? Okay, so for example, the concept of the weak diagonal can be seen here. The f3. You see the weak diagonal here. See this weak, right? This weak. And then you have this e4 and checkmate. So this full mate. The name is full mate. Full, F-O-O-L, mate. Mate, orang bodoh lah. So this is the danger of opening the f pawn in the opening lah. So be careful about this the diagonal. And this is like the basic trap lah, the most basic trap, the fastest checkmate. But of course, this thing also can happen in this f3 is basically not really what we call, not really a good opening lah. Because if statistically, if I go to opening book, if I open this thing, if I open to opening book, you can see that f3, you see f3 is the last. Okay, so here I'm using the not the one that this Hayek book. This is like it's different book because it gives the evaluation and so on. The green tell you that it is human play acceptable. This is blue is for computer. Blue is for computer, and then the red is not really recommended lah. So the f3 come last lah. One of the recommended thing, the f3 come last because of that weak diagonal. So let's see again about this thing. So let's see this thing again. If you look here, the f3 is not is not advisable. But even in the common opening, for example in Dutch, d4 and f5, this is Dutch opening, D-U-T-C-H, Dutch opening. If you play like this, you see here they are like the weak diagonal here. The weak diagonal here. So this is main line, one of the main line of the Dutch, bishop g5 line. So you have f6. Okay, so now not only you now you make this very weak lah. Here, it's very weak. So now, if you play like this, and then you play like this, and then this thing, as if that you get a bishop, but you can, what we call, sort of like exploit this, what we call this weak diagonal. If you take a bishop, then checkmate here. But if you try to, what we call, to protect this square from the queen take checkmate, so white can play this bishop d3, and in order to make a checkmate here, and if black try to sort of like prevent that, and then you get this lah, checkmate lah, because you take this and then you can checkmate. So that's why even though the f pawn move can also occur in sort of like the famous opening also, because this Dutch is one of the famous opening against d4, so one of the respectable opening against d4, the Dutch defense. also in another opening, for example, in Caro-Kann, for example, let's say this Caro-Kann, if you play e4, if you play c6, let's say e6, and then if you play Caro-Kann like this, okay. So whenever you see, so this Caro-Kann and d7 line, if you play like this, if you are white, okay, and black play like knight e6, typically when you have this configuration, the king, the knight, and the what we call the queen, you can see the king here is quite suffocated. I mean that is ham against behind his own piece lah. So a lot of tactic can happen from this if black not careful lah. So one of the main line for this is playing ng5. Okay. So in chess opening, you don't move thing twice. Okay. Typically you don't move your piece twice because it will waste time. But in modern opening, everything is concrete. If you move twice, if let's say whatever you move have specific reason, then it's okay. So that's why it's very hard to say this wrong, this right. It's subjective. If let's say you have a concrete reason for that, then it's okay. This is a main line, one of the main line for ND7 Caro-Kann ni lah, Caro-Kann play. So the reason for this is that white want to go here. Okay, white want to go here. So if you play S6 here, is play S6 and then you get this NE6 lah. Because white cannot really eat this, because if white eat, then of course checkmate lah. You get checkmate, right? You get checkmate here. So that's why the aim for NF5 NG5 is to go to this thing. And even here so okay, so that's why white black normally they just let the knight there by playing knight up, taking out his own knight, and then white play this thing, bishop d3, and then now if let's say white play this, black play this, and then still you can play this because still you can still checkmate, because when you have knight here, this normally protect what we call the square here from the queen. So basically there are no checkmate there anymore. But that's the reason why white play bishop d3, because if you have this the s6 again, still you have the checkmate here, so you can still go play like this and checkmate here. So that's why black normally play like this. So now when you play like this, there are no more checkmate, because the king can go here and so on, so there are no more checkmate. Okay, white play like this, and then now black play s6 like this. So in this case, white can play, there are two options, either to play safe like this, okay, just exchange like normal, or still play like this. Okay, still play like this. This is what we call positional sacrifice. Positional sacrifice. Previously, when you put knight here, that's not sacrifice actually, because you can just checkmate. So this is truly positional sacrifice lah. So if you take this, they are not checkmate. If you check, they are not checkmate. The king go here, but here they are very difficult for this bishop to get out. And now when this bishop is not get out, this also not get out, cannot get out. So all the, and also plus this king cannot get castle, lost the privilege to castle. So even though now you can see that the what we call the black got a knight for a pawn, positionally he is quite lost lah, because of you see this rook is better not, it's as if they are not even there, because you cannot, it takes a lot of time to get out. This also take a lot of time to get out, and so on. So here the evolution is normally the white is better lah. White is better, even though he is lost, not lost, I mean he is exchange down, not exchange down, he is a piece down compared to black. Okay, so now here white can, if you look opening book, you can see what is the most common. You can castle and then queen c7, and then you can just attack in the middle, just go attack in in the middle, because now you need to utilize this king position in the middle. Most of the problem, the checkmate, the opening disaster happen is because the king in the middle. Okay, when you castle, it's very hard for you to checkmate the king. Okay, when you castle, people might say, if you castle, then your opponent already know where to attack. Yes, the opponent, if you castle king side like this, if you castle king side like this, yes, the what you call what you call black already know that they can attack here, but it takes time to attack this pawn barrier here. But if you're in the middle, okay, if you're in the middle, then it's very easy for your opponent to open lines and so on like this. The king in the middle. So what can do, just open the line and so on. So be careful about this weak diagonal. It can happen also. It can happen in this in what we call in like very obscure or very not popular opening, but it also can occur in Dutch, and also it can occur in like respectable opening. Okay, respectable opening. Okay, so be careful about that. Okay, now it's 10:51. Okay, now I don't have time to. Okay, maybe I continue a little bit in the what we call in the tomorrow maybe I continue a little bit about the opening, but I want to show you a little bit now about how do you want to prepare your opening against your opponent lah. Now in the league you are in the halfway. I mean, today when you finish today's game for the league, you are basically halfway through to completing the league itself. So on Monday, tomorrow, there are no league. If you look at the what we call in the let me open this thing first. If you go to let me go here. Okay, if you go to the schedule, today you will finish the first league, the first round of league. Okay, so tomorrow there are no league. You rest. That's why we have 2 sessions tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow I continue a little bit about opening, and then we go to middle game. So yeah, tomorrow there are no league. That's why we do 2 double tomorrow. So hopefully the second league, the continuation after the first league, you can prepare better. So if let's say for those of you who have Chessbase, some of you have Chessbase. If you don't have Chessbase, I already show you. For those who doesn't have Chessbase, I already show you in the beginning of this session that how to create a database and so on using the free open source database. What you can do is that, for example, let's say I have this. Okay, let's say I have this. Let me close this thing. Let me close this. No, let me close this. No. Okay, how to prepare against your opponent, for example, for the second league. Okay, maybe now you have all the data and so on. What you can do is that for example, let's say this. Let me, where is the game? Masum League, right? So I open all this thing. So all this game, you can get this from the Lichess. That's why we have what we call, we have this thing. You can copy that, and if you don't have database Chessbase, you can use the SCID open source database that I showed just now. You can put all this thing. I already show you how to do that, and then you can just pull the thing. For example, let's say here I want to in Chessbase is quite easy because you can go to player. This is game, right? This is the game, and then I go to players. Okay, so all of you play this thing. So I can sort of like prepare. Let's say I want to prepare against Khalid. Okay, I can just go in Chessbase lah. I can just go to search prepare against white. So meaning that if let's say what Khalid is white, so I just click here. So I want to see what is Khalid normally play. Okay, so you see here E2 E3, meaning that all 5 games start E2 E3. Okay, all 5 games. If you look here, if I make it bigger here, look at the second chess set here. All Khalid game start with E3. The same what we call the same pattern. You can see like that. It's always like that. The setup for Khalid is always like this. The E3 and then the queen at E2 and then you have Franketo at B2 and so on. And you go the second game also like that. Okay, the same. More or less the same lah. The third game also the same. Okay, the fifth game same. And the fourth games same. Okay, let's now prepare against black. Khalid black. Okay, so we know Khalid will play like this for white. Let's go prepare against black, meaning that Khalid now is black. So now, so you see it depends lah, because now your opponent, the Khalid opponent, play E4, E5, D4 and F3. This is Safiddin. So let's see what Khalid play against E4, E5. So you can see here and look at this, this side. You can see the pattern, same, more or less the same. The queen do here and then the Franketo here, and then later on he will castling somehow here. It's correct. So now here E4 also. See the pattern is same. And then castling here, castling there, castling. See? And then against. Okay, now you can see. So now this is E4. Let's now what Khalid play against D4, D2, D4. Faiz against Faiz. Same. Castling. Against Siti Sarah. Same. Castling. And then against NF3 against Safiddin. NF3. Play NF3. This is Sarah. This is Safiddin. Okay. Same. And then queen must be here. Yeah, queen must be here. I don't know why. And then castle. No, he not castle. Cannot castle. This time he cannot castle. With Safiddin, no chance. Okay, but you can see now. What you can see now, you can see that Khalid have quite a narrow opening, so you can really prepare against that. Okay, so same with other person lah. Because remember, human is creature of habit. Even if I go, for example, not Khalid, let's say I go to Safiddin. And this may be this may be 10 games only. Maybe let's say I take the bigger database. Let's say I pull all the data. So this time I don't want to pull the data from league, but also the data from the previous year. Because in previous year, remember in previous year, for example date, if you look here, date, the Mio also enter the selection last year and so on. So I want to pull the data from last year until the league this year. So you see this is the this year league, right? League Chess League Masum 2021 this year. So I want to pull in from this bigger database. So what I can do is that I can just go to player and then I go to total. So you see, so I have more data. So for example, Khalid now instead of 10, I have 21 data because Khalid play against what we call against in the selection and so on. Let's see Khalid play against selection. Let's go to Khalid and then go to prepare against white. Okay, let's see. So now there are more game by Khalid because you have the selection. So this Akmal is during selection, but still if you look, the what we call the opening same. This Sandro still the same. Okay, so from this you can sort of like see that human is creature of habit, meaning that they don't change much lah. Even for example Safiddin, even you can see Safiddin. Let's say Safiddin prepare against white. Okay, so this pull from last year until yesterday. So you see Safiddin always play 100% play NF3. So it doesn't mean when a person played only one opening you can beat them easily. No, it's not. That doesn't mean like that. It means that you can prepare better. You know that this guy play like this, you can prepare better lah. So you see all Safiddin games start with NF3 because this NF3, all game is NF3 lah. For black, you can see lah all this thing, and then you can prepare for black and so on. And the thing lah. So even Mio, you can see, for example, what Mio always play what? Oh, Mio is E4 player because all 18 games is E4. So you see the play is again E5, he play like that. So you get sort of like, if you have database, you so Mio is always play like this. So you can see like that. So you can just make the thing. So Mio always play QurratuAin like this. The bishop go at C4 like that. So you see this thing, or G3. So because this against the Sicilian, but again this again E4 E5, he always play bishop C4. So somehow you get the know the pattern lah. You get the know the pattern and you can prepare better. That's why at the beginning of this session, I show you how to create a database even if you don't have the Chessbase, because I don't want you to make an excuse saying that, oh, I don't have Chessbase and so on. Yeah, they have free source and so on, and you can always check like this. Of course, you can always check using this thing. You can always check this thing, but if you do like this, it's pretty hard. I mean, yeah, you can find the games, but you need to click one by one. Okay, but if you have database, you somehow can organize straight away. You can see like pattern very quick. Here you need, at least you need to open one by one in order to see each pattern for each player lah. So I think tomorrow we will continue again tomorrow. So it's already 11. So tomorrow I will continue on the opening a little bit. Maybe half of the time is opening again, because still cannot finish. Because actually today the plan is to go this, but until number 2 only. Yeah, tomorrow maybe I continue this. Tomorrow is 9 and also 2:30. Tomorrow is 2 session. And also tomorrow there will be no league. If you go here, there are no league tomorrow, so you rest. Yes, you can play against yourself, whatever, but it's better for you for this free time. You sort of like study what you have done and see the pattern of what is your mistake. That's much more useful lah. This free time, don't just relax and prepare for the second league. Okay, so I think that's it for today. So any question? Sorry, 11. I think there are no question lah.
No.
Maybe you can save. You can ask. Okay, like this. You can ask the question in the WhatsApp, and then I can explain during tomorrow, whatever lah. So it's much easier like that. So hopefully today you learn something. At least you learn how to create database. You learn a little bit about opening principle. You learn a little bit how to prepare against your opponent. The way how I teach you for this coaching is more like giving you tools, because all of you know how to play. Remember, even though your opponent play the same opening like Khalid or like Safiddin, it's not necessarily mean that you can easily win against them. Because even Khalid, even though he plays E3, even though E3 is not really controlling the center, but because he is used to that, then for you to win against Khalid, still difficult. So please bear in mind that regardless what the opening your opponent play, regardless whether you know or not what your opponent will play, it doesn't mean that it's easy for you to beat that opponent. Because chess is not just opening, it's also a middle game and end game. So even though the Khalid opening is might be too narrow, but maybe he is good in middle game and end game. So yeah, you need to good in all the 3 facets in order to win against somebody. Okay, so that's it for today. I don't want to take more time, so we end with the recitation of Ummul Kitab, Tasbih Kafarah and Suratul As.